down and the Everly Brothers, and they put this all together and made their own unique sound.
Yeah, and you were part of that Mersey sound, which I'm sure you'll say it was a Mersey sound or a Mancunian sound, Frank Allen, because you were in the Searchers,
That's
Needles
right,
and Pens and all that stuff, and still are, right? Yes. Were the times as happy and as much fun as we now like to think they were?
Yeah, it was a lot less threatening. I think things have got very kind of elitist now. One of the things that I actually reminisce about and miss is that in those days, when we were all hanging about, there were some great clubs about. There wasn't that kind of hierarchy of pop. There were no Minders or anything like that. We would go to clubs, I'm sure Helen did, and Tom, the Cromwellian and places like that, and the Bag of Nails and things. And they were kind of like pubs for us. We used to go there, mix. No one was kind of like kept away from anyone else. I don't think anyone really thought they were stars. I think we thought we'd kind of made it for a few years, 4 or 5 years, and then we'd have to go back and get our proper jobs back and things like that.
Yeah, but so, I mean, they'd started something for all of you, hadn't they? You couldn't have dreamed of in your wildest dreams. I mean, there you were, lads in the provinces, suddenly thrust down to, London and these tours and women, chasing you all over the place.
Absolutely.
Must have been
Still do.
Yeah, of course, man.
Women run slower now.
So does he. So does he. Now, why are you here today?
I'm here because
How old are you, by the way?
I'm 21.
Yeah. What are you doing in a show like this? You're very welcome, but why are you here?
I've just walked in off the street, wrong building by mistake.
It does happen.
As far as I'm concerned, I was born 30 years too late. And I think I should have been, as I say, 21, 30 years ago, able to appreciate it all and be there while it was all happening.
Because you're so fond of the Beatles?
Yes.
Did your mum and dad introduce you to the Beatles music?
No.
No?
No. They're Irish. Well, English music at the time. They grew up in Ireland, so they didn't get to hear that much of it.
Why is it so appealing? You should be into, well, he would know far better than me. I mean, what should she be into? Her generation, 20-year-old, what sort of music should she be appreciating?
I refuse to make a comment on national television about that. No. It's great to see somebody of this age actually appreciating what was going on, but you have to remember that it wasn't all that fantastic. I mean, we like to remember there is a bit of rose-tinted spectacles about it. We were never the most wonderful generation. I think one of the most poignant things about the 60s was that pop music, and that includes what's in the charts at the moment, all emanated from the blues, from jazz. It came together in a fusion, if you will, around the late 50s or the mid-50s. And our generation of the 60s, and when the Beatles were about, I think we feel pride in the fact that we were there with the first true pop music. Sure. And from that, everything else is emanating. So there's that sort of nice looking
It is enduring, and people of my generation, and many, many more too, all over the country will recognise Dave Berry. I mean, that music is still very familiar. And easily appreciated by a lot. I mean, I've got a 6-year-old who loves the Beatles. Thinks it's absolutely true.
I think what happened in the very early days of the 60s, we've tend to forget there was definitely 2 channels with music, as Dave mentioned. There was the R&B based bands, like sort of Manfred Mann, all these sort of that sort of band, Rolling Stones. We were all based on R&B and blues music. There was definite blues. Yeah,
so it's something been going on for a long time.
Yes, and this particular club that Dave mentioned in Manchester had week after week, the Beatles there one week, and then the Rolling Stones. Everybody played at this very small R&B club. Yeah. And I think that people have looked to the 60s, and why it's so special now is because everyone really has got their own special acts. There was such a vast amount of different people came out of the 60s with different shows. Like Brian Poole and the Tremelos, and Brian Poole joins us now. I mean, how do you account for the fact that this music is still played? We're going to introduce you to someone who's got an entire radio station that plays nothing else. How do you account for that, what, 30 years on?
The reason for that is that bands like the Tremelos and me, and like many of the other bands around at that time, we made ourselves good at live playing. Yeah. It doesn't matter where we came from. It didn't matter whether it was Liverpool, London, or where. We were good at live music. Yeah. And that's how it still is. That's what you could do it.
Yeah. And yet, as I say...
That's the big difference.
As I say, Carol, I mean, what, 30 years on, Capital Gold here in London plays nothing else.
That's right, yes. We've made a radio station, and we are the 2nd most listened to radio station in London.
Yeah. Is it a good idea, though, for the Beatles to be getting back together again? Is it not possible that second time around, without John, sadly, things might not be quite the same?
I don't think we're looking at the Beatles trying to be the Beatles again. I think that in the 60s, they were absolutely magic. They had so much talent. They've now all diversified, they've learnt other skills, more experience, and I think them coming back together again will actually perhaps produce something, again, different, but probably just as magical.
Hands up anyone who's worried about them getting back together again. Yes, sir. Why?
Julian Lennon's, I think there's talk of Julian Lennon joining them.
Yes.
That would be the nearest equivalent to the Fab Four being back again, in my view, and I'm all for that, I think.
But have you any concerns about them getting back together, the three of them again?
Frankly, no. I think it'd be great. Why not? What's the harm?
Who
It'd be
has? Yes, sir.
fantastic.
I think it'd be a bit like how the Beach Boys are now, which is perhaps makes people wish that they had sort of parted in the
Bit sad.
70s. Yeah, I think so. I think sort of 50-year-olds standing on stage sort of singing "When I Grow Up to Be a Man" is a bit...
We've got Bob Bruning from Fleetwood Mac sitting alongside you. What do you think about it as an idea? Nice lad.
It's a very interesting idea. I think the three remaining Beatles have proved themselves to continue to be very kind of lively and creative musicians, so it must be interesting. But replace John Lennon? I mean, who could ever do that? Even his son.
Good idea?
I don't think... Well, actually, I edit a 60s music magazine, and it's been very interesting the last couple of weeks, the amount of letters we've had in. And we've had far more people not want them to get back together than we have for it. And I think the reason is that a lot of people think that they can never actually hit that height again. It was something in history that can never be repeated.
Who thinks it's a bad idea? Anyone listen?
Don't you think it's a bit of a media hype as well? Do you think they really will get back together, or do you think that maybe they're doing some music for a film?
It's a lot of press.
And they're going into the studio to record something, so everyone says they're going back.
Well, I think if it works as a creative process, it will only work if they're doing it to make music together. If they're only doing it to make money, we'll be disappointed. Yeah. But if they're getting together for the same reason they first got together, which is they enjoy each other's company and they enjoy playing together, then I look forward to it. But I suspect it's money.
I mean, well, maybe not, I don't know.
Do you think it's money? I don't think they need money, do they?
No. I don't know. The fact is, I mean, for many, many people, that music is enduring. Now, why is it so enduring? What did they strike in their lyrics? What's the chord they struck, if you were to mix a metaphor, in their lyrics that meant so much to so many people?
I guess if you look at some of the classic Lennon McCartney songs that are still being sung in cabaret now, where there are still any cabaret venues, there must be a couple left in the country somewhere, the songs are so enduring. And when you can take a pop song as such from the early 60s and still be singing it in the 90s in whatever style you want, Yesterday, stuff like that, The Long and Winding Road, I mean, the words, and you know, they were just phenomenal by anybody's standards. And if anybody now, today, group-wise, could actually write anything of that equivalence, then we would have the supergroup of all time at the moment.
Lady on the front down there, right? Yeah. Why is it so enduring?
Well, I think, I mean, the 60s, it was almost eternal sort of music. I mean, they do re-releases, new cuts of 60s music. But, I mean, say about the words, I mean, I can't imagine somebody like Take That singing doo-wah, diddy-diddy-dum, diddy-doo somehow. But, you know, but they're wonderful.
I think I can tell a little anecdote which shows the power of the Beatles for me, because of the Beatles, I failed my entire 3-year art and pottery.
Oh, you were including me, yeah.
The reason why I'll tell you very quickly was that my final exam was the morning that Sgt. Pepper was released, and I had no doubts about my priority. I went and bought Sgt. Pepper, played it, went into college in the afternoon and said, I'm awfully sorry, it was the cultural event of the decade, wasn't it? I'm here to take my exam. And they said, I'm sorry, you can't take it this afternoon, it was this morning. And I said, you're heathens, you're Philistines. So they kind of...
I went on to make a great deal of money with
yeah, right.
Well, good on you. Before we go to the break, yes, so why is it so enduring? What's the appeal to you?
It's just the beat. I mean, it's the evolution from the 50s to the 60s, the new music that's come out. I mean, I've grown for the love for the music through my parents and through friends, and I think it shows the music today. I mean, if a band today there's been re-releases. They get the music from the 60s and they've been re-releasing and they've been doing well. It just shows how good the 60s music was.
Is it something to do also with the fact that this was a bit of a provincial revolution, wasn't it? I mean, as far as my memory goes, the music industry had been dominated by London, and here were people from Manchester, of all places, from Liverpool, from Sheffield, from Chesterfield, taking over. And that was rather appealing to the people out there, wasn't it?
Well, yes, but the 60s were magic, weren't they? I mean, it was a magic era, and there was a room in the charts for all kinds of music. I mean, you had your Roy Orbisons, you had your Mersey Beats, you had your Dave Berrys. I mean, I had all your records.